everyone, my name is Kayomikun, the creative director of Kayo School of Arts and Kayo Africa on Instagram. You can check us out. Thank you as you do so. I want to specially welcome you to my YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to draft a basic bodice pattern, and I promise I'm going to make it as simple as possible. It's going to be very explanatory so that it can be comprehensible for even beginners. So for this pattern, we are going to need some certain measurements taken on the body. You need the center back, you need the bust, the waist, the front shoulder, the back shoulder, the front cross armhole, the back cross armhole, the shoulder length, the front body length, which is the shoulder to waist length on the front, and the back body length, which is also the shoulder to waist length on the back. Neck circumference, armhole circumference, shoulder to bust point or apex, bust point to bust point, shoulder to under bust, and under bust round. So I'm just going to continue to square out my bodies. And to square out my bodies, I'm going to be drafting my front and back bodice pattern together at the same time. So I want to mark out something that will be wide enough to take my front and back bodies. And to do this, I'm going to add 6 centimeter ease to my accurate bust measurement. My accurate bust measurement is 94 cm. In this video, we're going to be making use of centimeters in marking everything we want to mark. So your centimeters is on the other side of the tape rule, is on the other side of the inches of the tape rule. So we are making use of the centimeter. So to square out my front and back bodies, I'm going to add an ease of 6 cm to my accurate bust measurement, which is 94 plus 6 will give me 100. So I'm going to divide the 100 into 2. Your accurate bust measurement plus 6 cm divided by 2. By my measurement, I have 50 cm. So I'm just going to square out 50 cm from the center front of my fabric, of my paper pattern. This is the center front. I'm cutting the front right here. So I'm squaring out 50 cm. And after squaring out 50 cm, I'm going to divide into 2 to get the midpoint of my bodies. So now I have squared out my bodies and divided my front bodies and my back bodies. So next thing I'm going to do is measure my shoulder to waist length on the front bodies and shoulder to waist length on the back bodies. So after marking my shoulder to waist length on front and back, I'm going to draw a line across linking both waist, front waist and back waist. If you have taken your measurements right, your front body length, which is your shoulder to waist on the front, should be longer than your shoulder to waist on the back. Next thing I'm going to do now is mark my armhole line. To mark my armhole line, I'm going to divide my accurate bust measurement this time without the additional ease. I'm going to divide my accurate bust measurement into 4 plus an optional 1 cm. I called it an optional 1 cm because for some people, after dividing your bust measurement into 4, the armhole line is deep enough. But after dividing it and you realize the armhole line might be too short, you might want to add an optional 1 cm. So I divided my bust into 4. I got 23.5, so I'm going to add 1 cm, which will give me 24.5. So I'm squaring out 24.5 across my bodies from front to back to make my armhole line. So So now I have squared out my armhole line. Next thing I want to do is draw my apex point, which is my bust point. I'm going to draw my bust point length. I'm going to mark my bust point length, which is 27. I'm going to mark it just a little bit, and I'm also going to draw my bust point width divided by 2, which gave me 9. So I'm going to square down my bust point to the waist, up until the waist, 9. You can square down across your waistline a bit further down because we are still going to need it to blend our darts later. So I'm going to square this out, square out my bust point, the length, and the width. I'm just going to measure here to reconfirm what I have, 27 for bust point. So I'm just going to square that out. Note that the bust point line here would serve as the middle of the front body's dart. It will serve as the middle of the front body's dart. So next thing we want to do is draw the neckline. To get the neckline on this pattern, I'm going to divide my neck circumference into 5. I divide my neck circumference into 5. It gave me 7.6 as my neck circumference is 38 cm. So on the front bodies, do your neck circumference divided by 5 minus 1 cm. So 7.6 minus 1 cm would give me 6.6. And for the neck depth on the front, you can just use your neck circumference divided by 5 without deducting any 1 cm. So I'm going to mark 7.6. So here I'm going to use my French curve to link the line for my neckline. So now I have my front neckline. So I'm going to proceed to do my back neckline. For the back neckline, also divide your neck circumference by 5, but this time deduct 0.5 cm. On the front we deducted 1 cm. On the back we are going to deduct 0.5 cm, which is 5 millimeters. So I'm just going to mark 7.1 cm here. And for the neck depth on the back, the neck depth is going to be the difference between your shoulder to waist measurement and your center back measurement. So the difference between my shoulder to waist and center back measurement is just 2 cm, as my shoulder to waist is 38 and my center back measurement is 36. So I'm going to use my French curve, the smaller part of the curve, to just link the lines. So now I have my front neck and my back neck. Now we want to proceed to mark the shoulder. So first thing you want to do is mark your front cross shoulder divided by 2. My front cross shoulder is 36 and I'm going to divide by 2, which is 18. So I'm going to mark 18 from my center front on the shoulder line, and I'm also going to mark my back cross shoulder, which is 40, divided by 2. So I'm marking 20 on my back shoulder line. On the back shoulder line, you square down your shoulder by 3.5 cm. On the back, you square down by 3.5 cm. So I'm going to mark 3.5 and then square up. On the front of the shoulder, you square down by 4 cm. I'm going to square down by 4 cm. 4 cm. So next thing I want to do is put the ruler to link my square down, my 4 cm square down, to my neckline. So on that line, I'm going to mark half of my shoulder length. The shoulder length divided by 2. I'm going to mark that my shoulder length is 14, so I'm going to mark 7 to my neck point. So now I'm also going to put a dart in between my shoulder, That is the reason why we are splitting the shoulder into 2. So now that I have half of my shoulder length, I'm going to mark my first dart leg, and then I'm going to create a dart after this first dart leg. So to get the measurements for the dart, you just divide your shoulder length into 2, which is 7, minus 2 cm. So that gives me 5 cm. I'm just going to mark 5 cm for my shoulder dart. So on that point, you will link your first shoulder dart leg to the apex point, to the bust point, like so. And then also link the second dart leg to the bust point also. So I link to the bust point. So now that I have a shoulder dart, I want to close the dart to mark my full shoulder length. So to close your dart, all you have to do is fold your paper from front towards the side. You fold from front towards the side. If you want to fold the paper, make sure you hold your dart exactly on the line that you have drawn on the dart leg. I'm going to do another video for people who already draft pattern but does not want to fold their paper to blend the darts. This process we are doing is called blending, through-in and blending. So we want to blend the dart to have a dart head. So after closing your dart, if you want to close your dart to make it easier, you can just put your hand, a tip of your finger on the bust point and then begin to close, making sure that both dart legs are hitting each other. So after closing my dart, I'm going to now mark my shoulder length in full. I'm going to mark my shoulder length in full. Now I'm going to mark 14 centimeter, which is my full shoulder length. So now I have 14 cm linked to the shoulder line which we have sketched before. So now I have 14 cm. So on this part, before I release the folding, I am also going to mark my armhole, my front cross armhole. So while your dart is still closed, mark your armhole, your front cross armhole line. So to get a point to mark that, I'm going to divide my shoulder to armhole line into 3. Here I have 24.5 divided by 3 would give me 8.1 cm. So I'm going to mark 8.1 cm from my armhole line. From my armhole line, I mark 8.1 cm. And then I will close the dart. And then on that line, I am going to measure my front cross armhole measurement divided by 2 plus 0.5 cm. My front cross armhole measurement is 36, so I'm going to add 0.5 to 18 cm, which is going to give me 18.5. That's my front cross measurement divided by 2 plus 0.5. So now I have my shoulder line and also my mid armhole line or front cross armhole. So now I am going to mark the back shoulder also. So here I want to put a ruler to link my neck also to the 4 cm square down on the back. So here I'm going to mark my 7 cm like we did on the front, which is a half of the shoulder length. I'm going to mark 7 cm. So now I have 7 cm for half of my shoulder length. After the 7 cm, I'm going to measure 1.5 cm for my back shoulder dart. The back shoulder dart is not as wide as the front shoulder dart, as there is no bust at the back. So on that line, I am going to divide my shoulder dart into two. 1.5 cm divided by 2 will be 0.75. So I'm just going to mark 0.75, which is the half of the dart. And on that half, I am going to square down by 8 cm. On the middle of the back dart, I'm squaring down by 8 cm. And that is the length of my back dart. So I'm going to link it with the half of my shoulder length, and also the other side of the dart. So now I have my back dart. The same thing we did on the front. We closed the dart to blend the dart head. We're going to do so also on the back. Like I said, I'm going to make another video of how to blend darts without having to fold the paper. So now that I have folded the paper, I'm going to use my tracing wheel. We are still going to use it on the front too. I skipped that part. So I'm going to use my tracing wheel to blend the dart. And then after opening it up, you will see that the dart is flipping up just a little bit. Just a little bit. So I'm going to mark that. And then also, while the dart is closed, I'm going to measure my full shoulder length. My full shoulder length is 14 cm. So I'm just going to measure 14 cm from my neck point, like so. cm. So now that I have measured my shoulder length, I am also going to measure my back cross armhole. My back cross armhole measurement is 38 divided by 2 would give me 19. So I'm going to also add 0.5 cm. So I'm marking 19.5 cm. So quickly I'm going to blend my dart to get my new dart head. I'm going to use my tracing wheel like I did on the back. I'm wheeling my tracing wheel just directly on the shoulder line. So now it's going to give me a trace of my dart head, and I'm just going to mark that out. So next up is to link our shoulder lines on the front and the back to the armhole line to get the armhole curve. So what I want to do on the front is I'm going to measure 1.5 cm, or let's say 2 cm. I'm using 2 cm away from the mid bodice line, and I want to be sure that when I place my curve on the front, my armhole here is parallel. My armhole within this 2 cm is parallel. So it means I'm going to begin my curve from after the 2 cm marking, and I'm going to make it hit and I'm going to make it hit the shoulder line, the armhole, the front cross armhole, and also the underarm. So I'm just going to sketch it. And like that, I have my front armhole curve. So on the back armhole, I am only going to measure 1 cm. I'm only going to measure 1 cm away from the mid bodice line. And I'm going to make sure my armhole is parallel between the 1 cm. So now I'm going to link my armhole from after the 1 cm to connect to my shoulder line, my armhole, my back cross armhole, pardon, and then the 1 cm on the mid bodice. If after you mark your back armhole and then you realize that your curve is not hitting your back cross armhole marking, don't worry. If it is just about 0.5 cm space, you are still good to go. You can just mark your curve anyhow, so that shouldn't be a problem. So now we are done with the bodice on the upper part. We want to move to waist suppression. Waist suppression means reducing your bodice into darts. We want to find our dart. So the dart point, remember I said the front bodice already has its dart point, its middle dart point, which is your bust point to bust point line. So to get the back dart line, I'm going to divide my back bodice into 2. I have 25. After dividing into 2, you deduct 1 cm. So 12.5, which is the half of my back bodice, minus 1 cm would give me 11.5. So I'm going to mark 11.5 from my center back bodice, 11.5 up until my armhole line, because that is where the dart will stop. So I'm just going to draw a straight line from my armhole line to the waist for my back mid dart. So now that we have a mid dart for the back and a mid dart for the front, we want to distribute the darts. We are going to distribute darts on 3 places: the back dart, the side seam, which is the midway between the back bodice and front bodice, and then the bust point, the front waist dart. So I'm going to divide my accurate waist measurement into 2. My accurate waist measurement is 70. If I divide by 2, it will give me 35. So I'm going to minus 35 from 50 cm, which is what I have on my waist right now, 50 cm. So 35 minus 50 would give me 15. So that's 15 cm. So that means I have 15 cm extra on my waist right now. So I'm going to divide this 15 cm and distribute it on the back waist, the side waist, and the front waist. So 15 divided by 3 normally would give me 5 cm. But I'm going to make, instead of just putting 5 cm, 5 cm, 5 cm, I'm going to make my front waist dart wider than my side waist and my back waist. Why am I making my front waist dart wider? Because on my front bodice, there is bust. There is something protruding on the upper part, on the upper area. So that means we need more suppression on the front than we do on the side and on the back. So instead of using 5 cm for my front, I'm going to use 6 cm for my front. 6 cm from my front. So 6 cm minus 15 would give me 9 cm left for my side and back bodies. So I'm going to, so now I will divide my 6 cm into 2, which will give me 3 cm. So I'm going to mark 3 cm on both sides of the mid dart. So here I have 3 cm and here I also have 3 cm, which is a total of 6 cm for my front dart. So now remember, I am left with 9 cm. So I'm going to divide 9 cm into 2 for my back dart and my side dart, and that will give me 4.5 cm. So I have 4.5 cm dart here and 4.5 cm dart here. So what I want to do is divide 4.5 cm into 2 and share on both sides of my dart. That would be 2.25. So I'm just going to mark 2.25 on both sides of my dart. 2.25, and also I'm putting 4.5 cm here, and it will give me 2.252 on both sides of the dart. So now I have 2.25. So now we have distributed the excess of the waist into darts. So before I mark up my darts, before I link up my dart, I just want to confirm if after suppressing my waist this way, I now have an accurate waist. So what I'm going to do is measure. Remember, my accurate waist measurement is 70 divided by 2 is 35 cm, pardon. So I'm supposed to have 35 cm after closing my dart. So I'm going to mark from the center back to the first marking of the dart. Here I have 9.1 cm. So I'm going to take 9.1 cm to the next marking of my dart. Here I have, then to the next dart leg also. Here I have 18.3. I'm also going to take 18.3 to the next dart leg. And here to my next dart leg also, I have 28.9. So I'm going to take 28.9 to the next dart leg and measure. And here I have exactly 35 cm. Exactly 35 cm. So if you do yours and you don't get your exact waist, don't worry, don't panic. It just simply means you have to redistribute or recalculate your waist suppression calculation. So I'm just, now that I know that my waist is accurate, I'm going to mark up to get my dart head, and also to the side, to the underarm, and to the bust point. So now we have successfully suppressed the waist to the accurate measurements. The next thing you want to do is through and blend the dart. Remember what we did on the shoulder dart. We want to do the same on the waist dart too. So I'm going to take my front dart leg and close it towards my side. Remember, put a tip of your finger on the bust point and then hold the dart leg. So you can see now that the front dart, the center front dart side is now longer, the leg is now longer than the side. So I'm just going to use my curve. I'm using a curve because I don't want a sharp line. So I'm going to use my curve to just blend with my waist, my new line. So after doing that, I'm also going to use my tracing wheel on the folded part, so that I can now blend my dart. So you can see I already have a traced line for my new dart leg. So I'm going to mark that to the center and also to the center. So now that I have a new dart head, I'm just going to extend my mid dart to the center, to the end. For the side darts, we don't have to blend because we are cutting this part out anyways. We are cutting it out. It's not going to be in our bodice at all. so you don't have to blend. So on the back dart, I am also going to blend. I'm going to tell you a trick to know if you are going to fold forward or fold backwards. You are folding the longer darts, so you can do that by measuring your darts to know which one is longer. Here I have 14.5 and here I have 14.2. So it means we are folding from side to center. So I'm just going to do the same thing I did before. Hold my dart head, pin it down with the tip of my finger, and then close the dart. Like I said, I'm going to share a video on how to blend your darts without having to fold your paper because it might be a bit stressful. I personally do not like to fold my paper while making a flat pattern. So I'm just going to blend with my curve again. I'm going to blend. And after blending, I'm going to use my tracing wheel to wheel across the folded part of the dart. So now I have a new dart legs, and I'm going to mark it to connect with the dart legs. So that is all it is for the basic bodice. In the next video, I am going to share how to contour the shoulder to under bust, to get your bustier, to get your corset, to get your tube, to get your off shoulder, to get any kind of garment that is snatched from the under bust. So, and we are also going to contour the back of the bodice. Thank you very, very much for watching this video, and I want to plead with you to please subscribe to my channel, like my videos, and possibly even share with your friends what you have learned here today. Thank you very much.